Certainly makes sense. I think some of it is obviously in this new space that he's in with the new day where he doesn't want to have a bunch of fan interaction. It would be kind of weird to be this, you know, heavy heel with a bunch of fans hanging around. So I understand that. I think
Mhm.
also it's a great way to wrap truth in there as well, because these
Yes.
are elements of respect that people need to be reminded of. I think Flobo was talking about earlier how in the world of entertainment, somehow, whenever you see someone on your screen, regardless of what it is that they do, and you have a connection with them, you suddenly feel like when you see them, you know them, and you don't. You know what they've
Mhm.
presented, and they don't know you. And sometimes people forget that at the end of the day, these are people just like you, and they are deserving of respect, and they are deserving of honor and decency. I want to go back a little bit because you were talking about the treatment of Soraya and women and things of that nature. And let's do it. All right. We're going to rip the band-aid off because I'm sure that all of you in the chat have been paying attention to some of the things that have been going on in the wrestling world. And you know that there's a unique connection to some of those things with this particular platform.
Mm.
So I'm going to be very responsible right now. The first thing I'm going to say is this: there should never, and I mean never, be a moment in time where people feel disrespected at their workplace. Never, ever. I think when you start asking the question about how do we get people to really reinforce this concept of respect, it starts in the wrestling business itself. People need to be respected, and then we've got to turn around and reinforce the need to respect the people on both sides of guardrail. I think it is a necessary thing that we stand up for people who have been hurt, who have been marginalized, and who have been disrespected in any way. And so I think we have to be responsible to do that. And so being on this particular platform, I think there's a responsibility if we're going to stand up for Soraya and we're going to stand up for several of the other names that have been mentioned, then we have to stand up for those who have been very vocal about what they've dealt with. If we don't, why are we doing this? Like, let's just call a spade a spade.
Mm.
I'll also say this. I think we're in a dangerous society when our moral compass is determined by capitalism. If we're ever in a space where our integrity comes into question for fear of retaliation, for fear of a paycheck or lack thereof, then something somewhere is wrong. Something somewhere is wrong.
Yep.
And so I'm sure someone will clip this. I'm sure someone will send this around. It's the way it goes. So you can look at my face when I say very, very clearly, I support my colleagues who in any way have felt disrespected. Wrestling business is an important business. And if you step out of wrestling for a second, I think it's so ironic that we're having conversations about women are being treated in light of some of the cases that are happening right now in the public, in light
Mhm.
of some of the discourses that are happening, all dealing with how women are being treated and handled.
Yep.
And I think that if at the end of the day, we aren't working to create safer spaces for women, for people of color, for people who are marginalized, then throw the whole thing away. And I'm not playing. I'm dead serious. I understand that there might be people who might get upset with me for saying what I'm saying. But if I can't stand up for right, what am I doing? And if doing the right thing is considered compromising, then throw it all away. What's the point? What's the point? If women are feeling like they have been disenfranchised in a male dominated space, then why aren't we standing up and saying, let's fix it? Let's fix it. At the end of the day, it is that simple. If it is too difficult to say, let's fix it, then we have another issue. So I know there have been people who've been wanting this platform to say something. They've been wanting it since Friday. And well, here we are. And I'm going to say something because I know about what's going on. If you don't know, search it, you'll figure it out. But I want it to be very clear where Gerard Bonner stands. If you know me, you know very clearly I don't do foolishness. Right is right, wrong is wrong. So let's create a space where women, men, people who identify anywhere in that spectrum feel safe, feel valued, their voices can be heard, they can be respected by fans and promoters and wrestlers and everybody involved in the space. That's the very least that we can do. You're not required to like everything. You don't have to like characters. You don't have to like, personalities, all of that. That's par for the course. What's not up for debate is your safety. What's not up for debate is human decency. And if we have to be afraid to say right is right and wrong is wrong, that's not something I want to be a part of. So, with all of that said, in terms of why it's a hard time for people to treat Kofi Kingston and other wrestlers and Saraya and some of my colleagues who've had horrible experiences, it's hard to treat them right if it's not being enforced from everybody who has the potential to enforce it and speak up and say something about it. So, yeah. And I mean it. And I wish somebody would challenge me on this. I wish you would. The bottom line is right is right and wrong is wrong. I'm going to say one other thing. Advocacy is costly. One of the reasons why, and I'm stepping out of wrestling, but stepping back in. One of the reasons why you talked about the pandemic earlier, why the pandemic was such a major thing. You had the George Floyd situation, which was like almost 5 years to the day.
Yes.
At that point, everybody started talking about Black Lives Matter and all of those kinds of things. And people started recognizing the need for advocacy. But people realized that advocacy costs. Advocacy is going to cost you your privilege. It's going to mean that you're going to have to lend what degree of privilege you have to help others. That's honestly why it's powerful that we have men on a platform called Women's Wrestling Talk. We understand that in the wrestling business, men have a degree of an advantage. When we lend our privilege and our advantage to talk about women's issues and to support what women are doing, we are advocating. It's what people of color ask for from majority populations. And so I say that to say that if you have a platform and you're unwilling to use it for the sake of advocacy, though advocacy is where you are, then you really should rethink that. If you have the opportunity to speak up and speak out, do so and don't wait too long, because silence really can be misquoted. Back to the show.